Hello snacks, welcome back. My name is Jack. People thrown under the bus, that's the theme of today's video, mainly inspired by this first two-parter story, along with many others, and even one that I suspect Redditors actually threw the OP under the bus, but that's for later. For now, my husband, 39 male, has thrown me, 27 female, under the bus to his family with his silence and complete lack of a spine. How do I salvage this? My husband Owen and I have been trying for a baby for years with no luck. I would be happy to adopt, but Owen's family is against it and has influenced my husband to also be against it. After our second year of trying, I begged my husband to go with me to get a checkup to see if either of us or both of us are infertile. He was strongly opposed to this, as all the men in his family are extremely fertile, but eventually gave in. And as it turns out, his sperm count is extremely low. He was heartbroken, as was I, and we both got therapy. What's worse is after a year of no longer trying, I got pregnant, but lost the baby, and we were devastated. Owen blamed himself and proposed that we start the process of getting into a family planning center for a sperm donor, which I agreed to. He asked me that we not tell either of our families about this or our friends, and I agreed, because I would never want to emasculate him. With the help of our donor, I was able to successfully become pregnant, and we had our little girl last year. She is healthy and progressing amazingly, and I thank God for her every day. I kept my promise and never told anyone. However, Owen is struggling with connecting with our little girl. Here is where the trouble begins. Last month, when he went out of town with his brothers for their friend's bachelor party, while on the trip, Owen told his brothers about our infertility issues and that our baby wasn't biologically his. One of his brothers must have told his wife, who told my husband's mother. I don't know why she would tell my husband's mother, except that she has never liked me. Their mother then came to our house and called me a lying whore and tried to get my husband to leave with her. He just stood there silent. I told her that it was Owen's decision not to tell anyone, and she asked him if this was true. Again, he was silent, which his mother took as me being the liar. She then went to our nursery and started taking everything she'd ever given us for the baby back. I told her I didn't care about it, and I made more than enough to buy everything she gave us myself and better quality. This set her off, and she called my baby a filthy bastard? Okay. When she said that I did something I know was harsh, but I believe she deserved it. So I physically pushed her out the door. Now, I didn't hit her, but I did put my hands on her shoulders, pushing her out the door, and threw all her terrible things out with her. After spirits had calmed down, I realized my husband had said nothing when his mother was berating me, calling me a liar, and when she called our child a filthy B-word, so I asked him, why was he silent? He said he wasn't raised to be disrespectful the way I was, and that his mother hadn't said anything that wasn't true. She was just hurtful with what she'd said, and that we should let it go and wait for his mother to forgive us. I told him that I would never let it go, that his mother and anyone who agreed with her was not welcomed in our home, and that I don't need to be forgiven when I've done nothing wrong. He then said the house was his, and as the head of the family, it was his decision. I told, fine, but why did he allow her to call me a liar and a whore, all those things that are not true, and our child, well, no child really, should be called that word? He just repeated he would not argue with his mother. Well, since he's using that as his excuse, for a man of the house, he really is a little bitch.
There's only one way to recover my masculinity, and that is to bend over and bare my butt to my mother. Spank me, mommy, like the big strong man that I am.
After that, I stopped speaking to him and started gathering up my daughter's things and purse and walked out the door with her. He tried to stop me and told me I couldn't take his daughter anywhere without him, and I lost the little bit of composure I had left. I told him she wasn't his daughter. He proved he didn't see her as his daughter when he allowed his mother to call her a filthy bastard and told him she wasn't his. He broke down into tears and begged me to come back inside, but at the time, I felt nothing. He looked pathetic to me. I've taken my baby with me and gone back home to my parents and finally told my family the truth, which feels so good. They are completely in support of my decision and are not allowing my spineless husband anywhere near us, as he still refuses to apologize to me or set the record straight with his family. However, I told the sister-in-law that I was close to the truth, and she told the rest of his family. Half of his family is understanding, while the other side is on his mother's side, but they are all mad at my husband. I need time to cool down, but I know eventually my husband and I need to figure our marriage out. One thing is for certain, I will not return to his house until he apologizes to me and promises to protect me and his daughter fiercely. I want to see this in action form, starting with him telling his mother that what she did was wrong and banning her from coming to see us until she asks for my forgiveness. We were also planning on having more children as he wants a big family, but that is off the table as I don't believe he is ready, and we both need to get back into therapy. Wow, poor guy. Clearly feeling so pressured and a victim of his family's overbearing expectations on him. I'm just kidding. What a piece of schmidt. I mean, look, I'm sure we all have some experience, either ourselves or friends who have family trauma, like that pressure we get from them. And I don't know, what do you think? Do you think he can get that excuse here? Usually people who experience that at least would put their foot down when their mother is openly berating their partner. Like, these weren't subtle comments made or subtle actions taken. This was just blatantly to his wife's face that she is a whore and their child is doesn't deserve to exist. And what's he do? Well, he just pulls his pants down for her so she can reach his butt quicker to smack it. Like, oh my god, Jerry Smith, is that you? Now, skimming through the relevant comments, it seems pretty clear that the OP is no longer having much more confidence in their partner anymore, as well as clarifying that despite their husband still producing sperm, it was just less expensive to get an actual healthy donor to inseminate. And as, again, we need to highlight, he chose this option. It wasn't just her decision. She didn't do it behind his back. So anyway, just under a week ago, we got an update. So apparently, after I left my husband's house, my mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law accused me of cheating. I'd already begun speaking with a lawyer after Owen refused to tell the truth to his family, but knowing he let them tell other people I cheated is like getting punched in the chest. I'm now renting a nice 2-bedroom apartment. My siblings and their partners have helped me furnish it, and my top priority is ensuring my baby has everything she needs. Now, currently, I'm working to create a cozy nursery for her and hiring a nanny. Facing the end of my marriage is terrifying, but I'm learning to accept my new reality. When I notified Owen I was going to file for divorce, he started calling and messaging non-stop. His messages ranged from begging me to come home, telling me he will tell the truth and get therapy again, begging to see our baby, and then threatening to drag me home. I told him the divorce was happening whether he liked it or not because he failed as a husband and failed even more worse as a parent. He then sent photos and videos of my things in the garbage, and him and my brother-in-law trashing the nursery. His exact words, "I don't need it anymore." In the most disturbing video, he threw our baby's car seat in a dumpster. I do not recognize him or his behavior anymore. He claims to miss his daughter and me, but is trying to make his behavior my fault for not doing what I'm told. This is not the man I agreed to marry. The man I married was smart, kind, gentle, thoughtful, and funny, but this vileness from him was waiting for me the moment I didn't obey and take the disrespect from his family to save him from the humiliation of his infertility. Before the fallout with his mother, he was nothing like this. Now, it's certainly not an excuse, but I believe it all centered on him feeling emasculated and humiliated by his family. I just can't believe he couldn't at least stand up to his family for me and our baby, the one he said he would die for. I am not blocking Owen, as my lawyer said to email everything he says to me to him, but the constant threatening messages make me scared to leave my home. Owen knows where I work and has repeatedly told me he will drag us back if that's what it takes, and I'm making him do this. My lawyer and I are working on a restraining order, but every woman who was attacked by her ex-husband knows restraining orders don't keep you safe. However, things took a turn when my father-in-law showed up on my parents' doorstep, and it's the reason I decided to update. My father-in-law asked to speak with me. My parents told him they would call me and ask, but if I said no, then that was final and he would not be welcomed back. I only agreed to speak to the father-in-law because he told my parents he was there to apologize for his family and set the record straight. My dad called me as my father-in-law was blocked from calling me, and when I picked up, my father-in-law immediately apologized for his wife's behavior. He wanted to hear my side of the story as he did not believe I cheated. I thanked him. I was never close to the father-in-law, but we've always been civil, and let him know, of course, I did not cheat. I told him of his son's infertility and that Owen proposed we get a donor. I told him very clearly it was his son's decision, and that because my father-in-law and his family put blood as the only valid form of family, my husband made me lie so our child would be treated equally. After I finished, my father-in-law seemed stunned. He was quiet for a while and then asked if his wife and son could come over and see my daughter in person, as they missed us and were ready to be a family again, but I told him no. Father-in-law then asked if there was anything Owen could do to fix the marriage, and I again told him no. Father-in-law tried to say I was being unfair, but my dad stepped in and said father-in-law was overstaying his welcome. Before I hung up, I told father-in-law that his son was sending me abusive messages daily, and if he truly was sorry, then he should make his son stop. Then I hung up. My parents said my father-in-law was irritated that I did not respectfully say goodbye or give Owen a chance to save his marriage, but left with little fuss after my parents laid into him about raising his swine of a son to threaten his wife and child. Telling his father must have worked because I haven't gotten a single message from Owen since then. I do not want anything from my soon-to-be ex. Not child support, not alimony, not the house or any of his other assets. I just need him to agree to the divorce and give up his parental rights so my little girl can grow up with a family who loves her unconditionally. I have a good degree and a great job. My child and I will be fine without him. Owen's lawyer has made it clear they're going to fight us for full custody, and my soon-to-be ex has significantly more money than me. But my lawyer is confident in our case, and I trust them. Yeah, mate, good luck with that. God, do I want to be there in the courtroom with the popcorn when I see them air this video for the entire jury to see.
See, I'm such a great dad. Look at me emotionally react when the woman doesn't do what I say. Oh, I'm a great father figure.
Also, today my mother-in-law has been trying to contact me as she wants to be in my daughter's life and is saying she is ready to accept her as she is. As if my daughter needs to be accepted by her. If it's up to me, their whole family will never see us again. I, 23 male, broke up with my girlfriend, 21 female, of 3 years because she wanted to remain a virgin. Now she wants to get back together, but told me she slept with someone else when we were broken up. How should I proceed? Now, hold your horses on thinking this guy's the scummy one in this story. So I, 23 male, met my ex, 21 female, 3 years ago. We lived on campus at uni in different halls of residence. After a few months, we got together and for the most part, I had a very happy relationship. There was always one issue though. My ex grew up in a very religious home. Her father is a pastor. She has been open with her family that she does not share their faith. They weren't happy about it, but accepted that she has to make her own choices on that. Nevertheless, I think some of that religious upbringing was still in her mind. I grew up in a different religion, but was never very serious about it, and am no longer religious. Our relationship was pretty normal, except that she told me very early that she was a virgin, and wanted to stay that way until she was married. It wasn't for religious reasons. As I mentioned, she isn't religious, but she was very focused on not disappointing her dad. We did other intimate things, just not intercourse. Now, I never had much luck with girls growing up, and going into the relationship, I was a virgin. And I still am, at least if you classify being a virgin as never having intercourse. Anyway, I was becoming more resentful of the fact that everyone I know was having normal, intimate relationships, and we weren't. I couldn't understand why she didn't want to have a full relationship like that, though, of course, I never pressured her about it. I felt that while I was at uni, and pretty broke, getting married was something for the future. Now, last year, I was in my last year of uni, and she was working in her first professional job. Her degree was shorter than mine, so she finished uni first despite being younger than me. She was talking a lot about all these successful guys she met at work, which did make me feel lesser as I was still a broke uni student. Coupled with her not wanting a full intimate relationship, it did make me feel more resentful. We had some arguments about it, and after a while I felt that I should end the relationship as we wanted different things and our lives were on different paths. It was awful. She was crying a lot and I felt terrible afterwards. Anyway, it has been nearly 6 months since we broke up. We haven't been in touch at all for most of that time. I have not been involved with anyone else in that time as I was 100% focused on finishing my degree. I have finally finished uni and am about to start my first professional job. She recently got in touch again and asked to meet up. I was hesitant, but decided we had so much good history that I should hear her out. Well, she told me she's been missing me terribly these past 6 months, that she thinks she wants to get back together and is open to having a full intimate relationship now. I asked her, why now? What changed? And she looked uncomfortable. After a little prying, she said she had a short-term fling with one of the older guys at work while we were broken up, which is, of course, was fine as she wasn't my girlfriend anymore. Anyway, she said He persisted with her until she started having sneaky time with him. She ended it with him recently. She was clear that it was consensual, but that the guy was very persistent with pursuing intimacy with her. I was gutted. I couldn't understand why she'd make me wait all those years, but was fine doing it with some new guy she'd only been seeing a short time. I asked if the reason was open to having an intimate relationship now is because she wasn't a virgin anymore. She said yes. I asked her to give me some space to process all this. I'm conflicted and would love some advice on this. I have missed her a lot and still have strong feelings for her, but at the same time, it feels like I was strung along for years. It's hard to put my finger on why I don't want to take her back. Everything logically makes sense for us to get back together. I'd even get to finally have an intimate relationship with her, but I feel awful about this whole thing, and I don't want to ignore those feelings. So at the time, main suggestion was just to move on. After all, if you actually do get back together, are you gonna feel comfortable with the fact that the other guy that she actually slept with was a coworker, and she is still going to be around him? Now, naturally, because it's Reddit, a lot of people were absolutely digging on this woman, which prompted the OP to return with a bit of a clarification that she's not some manipulative villain or evil. She was actually someone who was very funny, smart, and charming, and a beautiful girl he always knew her to be. You know, she's a human being. She clearly, possibly, realized that her personal morals was affecting her having a full, meaningful relationship. And so she decides, well, okay, next guy that I get a good feelings for, I'm actually going to be more open to these things. She does so. She realizes, actually, this guy wasn't it. And hey, now that I've broken this personal boundary of mine and I feel fine, let's try it back again with the original guy who I always felt great with. But the OP continues on to say, I'm feeling hurt because I guess this is a solid blow to my ego, that I feel like the lesser man here. I can own that, and that's something for me to work on. Now, ultimately, I have some hang-ups about intimacy from this relationship that I need to deal with. A few people have suggested I could benefit from therapy. I'm going to look into that. I think I need help to process all these emotions from this situation. The last we hear from OP at the time, people suggesting just some good questions to ask her when you want to get some more information. Because, shocking news, turns out intimacy is important to guys. So it's understandable OP feels that, well, there's a lot of emotional conflict here. He's been certain all this time that she truly loved him and really cared about him, etc. But no, we never go all the way without intimate love. But then the moment he breaks up with her, she's okay to give that degree of intimacy and love to someone who she barely knew as much and was just apparently nagging her for it. To make an extremely generalized and arguably stupid comparison, imagine it's like waiting for your boyfriend to hurry up and propose to you, breaking up with him because he takes too long, and then the next partner he gets with, they propose in like the first 3 months. It's kind of natural for you to react to it like, what? Well, now we get to the update 10 days later. And it's in this update where I feel this is relevant to the idea of being thrown under the bus, having your emotions toyed with so someone else can get some feeling of closure. You'll see what I mean. I'm going to refer to my ex as Ellie, and not her real name. I'd like to write a bit about the comments because so many people took the time to provide their thoughts, and I appreciate that. Gloss over this. Majority said, move on. A minority telling him to give it a chance. Another calling him out for wanting her precious virginity and being sulky that she wouldn't put out. How dare you make her think that intimacy is necessary to keep a guy, and her sleeping with someone else is entirely your fault, because apparently she doesn't have any self-autonomy at 21 years old. Takes a moment to quickly clarify the virginity accusation. His issue wasn't about her being a virgin or not, it's just that they weren't being intimate together to the degree he wanted to be by then. Regardless if she was a virgin or not, that wasn't the issue. Pointing out that Ellie had clarified to him that she was getting everything she wanted in their relationship at the time, but he personally wasn't. And understandably, he was mature enough to realize there was no way to reconcile that. Either we were sleeping together or not. It requires both to say yes, and that wasn't going to happen. With some humble hindsight to realize that he probably should have ended the relationship earlier the moment that Ellie actually brought this up. Of course, he was a naive 19-year-old who never had a girlfriend before, so of course, he went along with everything she was suggesting or doing because, again, he's a guy, and he'll do whatever he can just to, please, yes, just don't leave me. It's like reading a journal of my young adult self. Ultimately pointing out the fact that, yeah, at that point, they just weren't compatible anymore. It was scary for him to make that sort of confession, but he didn't want to just keep stringing her along and also be hurt himself. And ultimately, look, yeah, you can think intimacy isn't that important in a relationship, but he personally does. But anyway, this is a lot of info dump of stuff that we're already kind of making our own opinions of anyway. Let's go on to what happened. So last weekend was the Australia Day long weekend. I was on a camping trip in the Grampians for any Aussies reading. Okay, I know I'm Australian, but just please don't judge me. Victoria, cool. Yeah, I know what that is. It was so nice to be in nature, to do some bushwalks with friends and decompress. It felt good to talk about the Ellie situation with my mates around the campfire. Most of them knew Ellie pretty well from our years together, and they had a range of views, just like the comments on my post. And I got the usual good-natured schmidt about still being a virgin. I learned there's an expensive bottle of scotch they bought a while ago that's going to have its seal cracked when mine is. There's buttholes. One great question a friend asked was whether I would have ever decided to reach out and take Ellie back if she never reached out to me first. The answer is no. It was so obvious to me. That cut through a lot of the confusion for me. I was being too passive in this situation and needed to do what I wanted, not just react to what Ellie wanted. So by the time I was on the way home, I decided to not get back together with her. But that was moot. See, when I was driving home and got mobile signal again, at no mobile network where we had camped, the network delivered a bunch of messages from Ellie at once. Well, she said she was wrong to ask me to get back together, and that she's back with Tim, fake name, now. She also texted that the thing with Tim is more serious than she told me when she last met with me. She apologized for misleading me about her and Tim's relationship. If you remember, she called it a fling before. She asked if we could meet to talk about it. I was not happy, so I just texted back, no. Not very mature of me, but I wasn't in the mood to hear more about all of this. And I was surprised and mad that she lied to me. That seemed very out of character for her. She tried calling me, but I didn't want to answer. She sent another text saying, Tim and I had a fight. I shouldn't have come to you. And finally, I'm sorry. So yeah, wasn't a fling that she just regretted. She merely had a fight with her new partner and then decided to flee to her ex, hoping to hook back up with him, with the promise that they'll bang. Yeah, Ellie seems like a real catch, my man. So when I got home, I was an idiot and let my curiosity get the better of me. I looked up Tim online. His real given name is uncommon, so it wasn't hard to find. Found him on LinkedIn, which gave me his full name. Ellie is one of his connections, and he works at the same firm, so I was confident it's him. He's a director at their firm, one level below partner. He also has pictures on Insta, lots of posts about his adventures around the world at various events and exotic places, as well as shots with an expensive-looking car. A few photos of him with Ellie with their arms around each other in Singapore in November. I guess that confirms it was serious. He wouldn't have public pics with her for a casual fling. All that just made me feel bad. No good comes from comparing myself to my ex's successful boyfriend. Ellie is not my girlfriend and I'm not in competition with Tim, so I won't do that again. My ego is bruised enough already. I've been living a very frugal life my whole time at uni, aka poor as hell, so I know I can feel inferior when I see people with wealth. That's another me problem to sort out. Anyway, all that was on Sunday afternoon and evening. So on Tuesday evening, Ellie knocked at my door. She said that she knows I didn't want to talk to her, but she felt bad about everything and hoped I would let her explain herself, clear the air. Then I'd never see her again if that's what I wanted. I let her in. I was not happy with recent events, but figured I might at least get a clearer idea of what's going on. It was a long, heavy conversation over 4 hours, but here's the gist as I remember it. When we broke up, she was devastated. She said it took a couple of months before she started to feel a bit better. She missed me constantly and wanted to see me the whole time, but when I ended it, we agreed to keep apart and heal. In September, she met Tim at work. He manages a different team. She doesn't work for him. She said he was very charming and attractive and showed almost immediate interest in her. They got to know each other, and he asked her out. She was worried it was a rebound, but felt so much better getting his attention that she went along with it. After dating for a while, she developed feelings for him, and that later led to an intimate relationship. It wasn't a fling, and she dated him for a while beforehand. I asked about whether he had pressured her into it. Last time, said that he was very persistent after all. She said she was trying to not upset me. She thought if she gave the impression that she was reluctant to do it with Tim, that I wouldn't think as badly as of her. So, it was a story to try and spare my feelings. I told her it just made me worried she had been assaulted. She looked shocked at that and said, no way. She was actually the one who initiated their intimate relationship. Oh, well, that makes him feel even better then. I said, although I don't like that she lied to me, I can understand why. I don't think she did anything wrong changing her mind about abstinence. Yes, I was hurt when she told me she was sleeping with someone else, but I have no right to judge her for anything. She's a single adult and it's her life. I don't think badly of her. She burst into tears and said something like, I thought you must hate me now. I assured her that I didn't. She said she was sad it didn't work for us, but that she never would have dropped her virginity commitment if we had not broken up. After we broke up, she decided that it was a commitment she made to her dad when she was still a kid. and it was messing with the life she wants now. So by the time she and Tim got into their relationship, she had already decided she was ready for it with the right person. I asked about her dad and she just said, he doesn't need to know. I asked about why she asked to get back together. Tim is older. She told me he's 32 and has been at the firm for 10 years. One day at work, one of the women made a snarky comment to Ellie about being another one of Tim's girls. She did some digging, and it turns out Tim has a history. He has dated a long list of women from work. Several of them were young graduate employees, just like Ellie. The rumor around the office is that Ellie is just the next girl to get used by him. She was horrified. She accused Tim of using her. They argued, and she told him it was over. So soon after that, she came to me. She felt as if we might be able to rekindle things now that she was open to an intimate relationship. But my hesitation and time to calm down made her realize that was a mistake. So over the weekend, Tim asked her to work things out. She decided to give it a chance. She tried to call me, but they went to voicemail. I was camping, so she sent those messages instead. So I guess that's settled. I don't want her back, and she's in a relationship, so she doesn't want me back either. We chatted a bit about how our families are going. She congratulated me on finally finishing uni. She asked if I had been seeing anyone, and when I told her I'd been studying hard and working a lot since exams, with no time for girls, she laughed and said, I'm still a big nerd. She hoped we could be friendly if we ever see each other, but she wants to keep out of contact out of respect for her relationship with Tim. She wants to give it a real chance of working, which is fair enough. She gave me a hug, said thank you for understanding, and left. So there you have it. Ellie involved me in her relationship drama. I would have preferred she hadn't, but at least it's sorted now. I'm glad I paid attention to my feelings and took time out to consider things, as it would have been very messy if I'd taken her back. Trusting my gut has been the biggest lesson for me in all of this. So a great point to make. The fact that she dragged you into the drama of her new relationship is proof that the relationship wouldn't have worked either. She's clearly too immature. You should distance yourself from her. To which the Opie responded that, look, they've agreed to stay out of each other's lives. I fully intend to keep to that, and I hope she does too.
She won't. You should block her.
Because see, here's the thing. To go down this entire chain of valid beliefs of what's going to be happening in Ellie's near future, having worked in a large Australian law firm, that girl is about to get screwed over in a big way. Tim has formed with graduate women in the firm, so this will be a short-term thing. I could almost guarantee that there will be a future update where Ellie gets dumped and tries to reconnect. Others pointing out that, yeah, Ellie should really keep an eye on what happened to Tim's girls after he dumped them. I mean, if they're still doing work, still in the company, that's great, but if his past flings all have mysteriously left the company or in dead-end positions, then she better watch out, because she might be taking their job soon. Yeah, she'll be offloaded in the semi-near future. She will not continue working for the same firm because she's known as one of Tim's revolving door of women. It's not easy to overcome that reputation. If Tim's smart, he helps them get them jobs elsewhere. If he's not, the lawsuits will hit eventually. Look, I've known both male and female executives who had their revolving doors. They're all predatory, but the smart ones know being a total a-hole while dipping their ink in the company, well, it won't go over well. It's not the 70s or 80s. Lawsuits are more common and PR hits can be very large. Not saying it doesn't happen, but it absolutely does. Just rarer than in the past from everything I've seen. And yeah, Tim's evidential red flags continue to be discussed. At the moment, the next naive woman hired out of school comes by, he's going to flaunt his wealth to her and then to say she's so mature for her age, and then sleep with her instead. At least statistically more likely to be replaced than to become a trophy wife. But hey, I mean, she got some expensive experiences and gifts, so at least she got to have that sort of fun for a bit. Overall, it seems like Ellie might be the person who herself gets eventually thrown under the bus. Today, I screwed up by complaining to my wife about work. So my wife and I work for the same multinational company, but in different departments at the same location. Like most couples, we talk about work, complain about coworkers, and workplace drama. I work in a quality control lab, and she handles clients and rubs elbows with the top brass of the company during their weekly meetings and such. She is also a very likable person and friends with them outside of work. So I was complaining to her about my coworkers, how some of them don't run quality control checks or ignore them if they fail, and how some of the falsify or completely make up data just to make their job easier. At my company, any of those things are a fireable offense. I also mentioned to her that I had complained about it to people overseeing the lab, but nothing ever comes of it. Well, today, after her morning meeting, she was commiserating with her team. Like I said, some of them are the top brass in the company, and some of what I told her about the lab came up. I can't imagine how it came up, but it did. and apparently it didn't seem like it was a big deal in the moment. Near the end of the day, she was called by HR to schedule a meeting with HR and the company legal team. They are flying the legal team from our company HQ to our location for a meeting to discuss any information she knows about the lab practices I mentioned to her. I'm sweating bullets because I have no idea what this means for us. In the end, I know I will be mentioned, so I'm going to take heat from someone. And I'm totally worried somebody, maybe me, will be fired. No way. You're ensuring the company abides by proper practices and safe regulations, mate. Why would a business ever threaten an employee for ensuring that? That's never happened before. It's not at all comforting, too, when someone who's a quality engineer themselves brings up the fact that this is something that is not specific to their company and it happens everywhere, and they personally hate it. But, these jobs are literally for this because people have died or like health risks. Why are we lax in this, Schmidt? Is this sort of reasoning why I honestly am not against AI revolution taking over humanity? I don't think we should trust humans with this sort of stuff anymore. So okay, wife may have unintentionally thrown him under the bus. So how do things turn out? Well, just 3 days ago, a month after the original post, we get an update. I'll just tell you now, it ends exactly how you think it would. It turns out that multiple people had reported the anonymous hotline for our company. The legal team met with my wife because she was the only person they knew had knowledge of the events. 1 month later, we both still have our jobs. No retaliation, which was my biggest fear, but nothing has changed. The people falsifying the data are still employed and continuing their same practices. As mentioned previously, we are an international company, HQ in the US, but are managed locally for the most part. One comment asked if I worked at Boeing, which gave me endless laughter considering the headlines that month. We don't. However, we do work in an industry where people can be seriously harmed if the lab gives inaccurate results. I think the local upper management is keeping a lid on things because we are short-staffed and reluctant to fire skilled personnel. So I'm reporting infractions to my supervisor and documenting each incident. And I plan to turn it over to HQ if nothing changes in the next week. So yeah, let's just tie those two things together. We do work in an industry where people can be seriously harmed if the lab gives inaccurate results, and the people falsifying the data are still employed and continuing their same practices.
Awesome!
Yeah, as this comment says, just another example where everything is tied to productivity and profitability, and as a result, you're completely risking actual safety. Why bother keeping a same standard profit year by year that keeps everyone financially afloat and happy when you can just keep racing to get as much money as possible? We all know the CEO isn't living unless they have their fourth yacht. And that's the sad truth of it. An employee would be more at risk of losing their job for reporting something that would hurt the bottom line than something that would hurt a human being. Not just a customer, human being. So why would they stick their own neck out? Hey friends, Editor Jack here, realizing he didn't record an outro. But bye. Drink water or I'll drown you, and other slight threats of violence on you that I legally am not accountable for. That's right, I'm exempt from charged with murder because I'm a friendly person. Yeah. Anyway, love your face. Bye.